As the channel keeps on growing and growing, I keep getting asked the same question. Bobby, how did you become a jeweller? So in this video, I'm going to sit down and tell you my story. So I was born in East London. We had sort of quite a fun upbringing. And with school, I went to like Cumberland School, like secondary school. I didn't like it. There were some lessons like English, I'm really dyslexic. So I liked it a little bit, but didn't really like all that sort of subject and sort of history and stuff like that. But the ones I really did love is design and technology, art, anything making or designing. I actually loved them lessons. It's like my favorite time. When I was leaving school, I was like, not really sure what to do. As it happens, my dad was getting some jewellery made for my mum at the time. So I went up to the workshops where my dad was buying my mum some bits, and I just looked at it and thought, this is exactly what I want to do. It's making, it's designing, it's everything I enjoy at school, but actually as a job. I found the course that took a year. So when I got my meeting, my interview basically at the college, they asked me to bring a piece of jewellery what I've made before. But I've actually, literally the only time I've been in a workshop was to pick up a piece with my dad. So I was a little bit panicky what to bring. And when I was younger, I loved making these plasticine cars. But they had like super details to make like little tiny engines, and if you crashed them, they had an airbag in. So they was like super detailed. So I took basically a plasticine car to my interview. And as soon as I showed it to the fellow who was interviewing me, he actually gave me a space straight away. He said he didn't have to wait to see. He actually wanted me on the jewellery course. So that's how I got into the actual first course to get me started for the first year. But that was just a pre-apprentice course. So I spent a year doing that, and afterwards you need to find an apprenticeship, again, which is 5 years. So 6 years training in total, which is quite a long time. So when I was at the end of my apprenticeship, I started to thinking like, how do I start my own company and do my own thing, or do I stay at the company where I'm at? I learned some amazing skills there and was making really fantastic jewellery. But at the time, the person I was working for was going through some difficulty with his life, and the business was a great business, absolute like folded at the time. So it was a little bit unknown what we was going to do, and I didn't have a job basically. So I'm sitting there and the receivers come in. Obviously they price everything up on the company that I work for. And then they started talking about how much things are. And I've been saving up for like the last 5 years because I wanted to do my own business. And they come with a figure, and I looked at it and thought, I could actually buy everything in this workshop and the whole thing will be mine. Obviously not his business, but the actual tools to get started as my own company. So I took the leap. I said to the receivers, I'm gonna buy it all. Everyone in there, I mean, there's a lot of people there, a lot older than me, didn't touch it. All they was worried about is losing their jobs and how they're gonna find another one. And I said, fine, I took it. So one day I was making like the cup of tea, I was still the apprentice. And the next day I walked into the workshop and everything was mine. So that was a big start. I mean, I had this whole entire floor with all these machines and tools, which I'd never even dream of owning that quick. And that's when I had to start and thinking, how am I gonna build this brand? How am I gonna build this business? So after taking over the sort of the space, and we had quite a lot of space there, I carried on working for about 2 years doing, again, really beautiful handmade stuff for like big West End companies. And I don't feel like I was getting nothing out of it personally, just making some amazing stuff. And then we started talking with Tommy and how to make a brand. And that's when we really went for it. I mean, the first thing we done, we rented this massive, beautiful office in Canary Wharf on the 33rd floor of the Citigroup Tower. I mean, we thought we was like, this is it, we're gonna be like Bond Street shop in a couple of years. So the first day we've gone up to the office, we went down to Mont Blanc, we bought pens, we bought paper, we had the best of everything in our office. It was like, it was stunning. But after a year, I mean, it just, for what we was paying, I mean, it was paying a fortune in rent and stuff like that. It literally wiped us out really of what it cost us. So after a year, I said to Tommy, this ain't working, and we left the Canary Wharf office. And I think that was probably a real low point for like me and Tommy after a year. Thinking like, when we first started, within a year we was gonna be huge, but reality was, within a year we spent loads of our money, nothing was doing really well on the sales really. And I think Tommy then went back to the garage in my mum and dad's house, which I think was quite a bit of a low point. We've gone to this massive office looking over London to a garage basically with a desk in it, and didn't look glamorous at all. It was never a point of quitting. It was always, how we're gonna rethink about this, how we're gonna redo it. It's never been a quitting. It's always been, I think even went down to nothing. I think we just start again and try and thinking, what did we do wrong? And I mean, I always say to Tommy, when we do things wrong, it's just our education. We didn't go to university as such, so there are university fees. How much it cost us to make these mistakes, I think it's well worth it. But what we've done, we sat there for, I think it took us a couple of months, And what we didn't really realise when we first started, we had this massive floor in central London, probably the most prime location. Let's build our office there. And then that's when it first really started. We made our first office in London, right next to the workshop. And really that's what people wanted to see. They wanted to come to us, they wanted to see the workshop, and then we took them into our office, and then that's where we sold them our pieces. The first couple of years when Tommy moved back into London, that's when we really started taking off. And then we started getting the celebrities. And I mean, that really like elevated our business. The amount of people we was having coming up to the workshop, and we was making like these big one-off pieces. It was just so exciting at the time. Prince, Beyonce, Jay-Z, The Prodigy, obviously. So in that time as well, when we was in the workshop, me and Tommy making all these amazing pieces, that's when we started making the Spartan masks, which is now still an iconic piece for us. And I think we made some really amazing big necklaces for a lot of these singers, because they wanted stage stuff, so they wanted presents, like they wanted people to see it. They didn't want jewellery that went on your arm and you just wore it for the rest of your life and no one really noticed it. It was all big presents, like statement pieces. The first thing I ever designed, as soon as I took over the workshop spaces and before Tommy, I sat down and drilled a few holes and come up with the motion ring. And that was the first design I ever sat down and done. And I think that's the most proudest part of jewellery I'm actually quite proud of. I think even with the rocket, it's like the symbol, it's shooting into space. You're always trying to elevate, you're always trying to do something better. That's the idea around the rocket. When I was making it, it was always like let's reach for the stars. That was part of the rocket design. And like even with the grenade, it's like I made it for someone for stage first, and now it's explaining they want to like get on the stage and explode with energy, and that was the idea around the grenade. And like the motion ring, everything's got a movement, everything's sort of going somewhere. That's sort of the way I like to design. There's always a reason for it. I think that's the good thing with being a designer and actually someone knowing what you do. You need your own style. I mean, there's a lot of other jewellers got their own style. You instantly know what their thing is in a way. Like my designs are very straight lines. It's very like sharp and well made. And I think that's the way I design. Some people like doing like the roses and the flowers and sort of organic shapes, which I still like, but my design is very, very sharp and very to the point. I think if people want to be a jeweller, I think you've got to be in it for the right reasons. You can't just be in it because you see someone's got a big car or they've got a nice house because they're a jeweller. I think you need to love making things. You need to love like being creative, designing, and spending hours and hours, I mean in days and weeks and years, going over the same thing with a saw frame. And I think where I was lucky back in the day where I went to the pre-apprentice course and had a 5-year apprenticeship after, because you cannot learn jewellery in 1 year. I mean, people try and say they do. It's impossible. After a year, you literally know nothing. You need that good 5 or 6 years training. I'm sure there's people out there who can make their thing what they make and they're happy doing that. But I think if you want to be an all-rounder jeweller, you need 6 years of training before you can really go for it yourself. I used to go to my college or go to work all day, and I used to come home and practice. I used to sit at my bench literally to like 10, 11 at night, doing back holes, bending, just trying to get shapes and things right. I mean, it takes a lot of time. Even in my apprenticeship, I used to do things one time, you think, oh God, thankfully I got there. And then you get another 10, and you think, wow, got to sit there and do 10 of these. And then you get 100, and I mean, before you know it, you're sitting there a year doing the same one thing over and over again, so it can be super like repetitive, like quite boring, but if you like to get things perfect, it's the sort of job I love. I hope this answered your questions how I became a jeweller. It's just my personal journey, so that's the advice I can give you. I want to say a big thank you for the 275,000 subscribers we've got on the channel now. I really appreciate that. I've got 2 videos coming up, stuff you've never seen me make before, so stay tuned and keep watching.